December 2022, somebody tweeted out and said, maybe we should just accept that Luke Hughes just isn't good. 2 years later, that take aged poorly, like sour milk, as Luke Hughes had a big showing against the Carolina Hurricanes. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed him. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Chalky, play announcer, Devils Rider Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. The New Jersey Devils defeated the Carolina Hurricanes 4-2. What a showing at the Rock. The Devils had a few days off for the Christmas break, and they wasted no time getting back into the groove. In today's episode, in the first segment, I will share my main takeaways from the game. Then in the second segment, like I do with every post-game recap victory, I will name some players that caught my eye and also list my personal 3 stars of the game. And then in the third and final segment, like I do with every post-game recap episode, I will compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade. Before I talk about the Devils and Hurricanes matchup, first, some interesting stats courtesy of Devils play-by-play announcer Bill Spaulding. Through the first 11 games of December, the Devils have an 8-2-1 record. They have scored 3.27 goals per game, goals against per game 1.64, shots for per game 29.8, shots against per game 20.5, save percentage 920. I know when we think of December, usually you think of Christmas time, you think of Santa Claus, who's been naughty, who's been nice. Well, I can assure you that the Devils were on Santa's nice list because Christmas has come early for them, dating back to early December. We're just a few days away from the new year, 2025, if you can believe it, and the Devils are closing 2024 out with a bang. The Devils now have a record of 24-11-3, which gives them 51 points, meaning they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. They're also tied with Vegas and Winnipeg for most points in the NHL. My thoughts heading into this game was that the Devils, as always, were going to be tested by the Hurricanes. Entering this matchup, the Hurricanes had a record of 21-12-1, and they're currently third in the Metropolitan Division. When I think of the Devils and Hurricanes battles throughout the past couple of seasons, I always think of a physical matchup. Like the Hurricanes are always going to give the Devils their very best, and the Devils have to be on their A game if they want any chance to beat the Hurricanes. And it wasn't the best of starts, and Sheldon Keefe even said it during his post-game speech to his team, but the Devils found a way. They relied a lot on their offense to get them out of a lot of situations. As the game progressed, Jacob Markstrom, he looked stronger and stronger in between the pipes, and it was an entertaining game through and through. Like, if you were in attendance at the Prudential Center, you witnessed a really good matchup. It was so much fun for me to watch on TV. Obviously, this game means a lot to both sides because it's a divisional matchup, a lot of history between these two teams. I was thoroughly entertained through and through. And it seemed like whatever the Hurricanes threw at the Devils, they had an answer. So in the first period, Eric Robinson scored the first goal of the game. What happened was that Markstrom, it looked like he initially made the save and there was no whistle, and Robinson just tapped it on in. Of course, when a similar circumstance happened for the Devils, a little later in the game, the referees looked at the replay monitor and said no goal, but I'm not really going to dwell on that too much. But the Hurricanes went up 1-0. But about 6 minutes later, Andre Palat, he tied the game, tipped it on in, and the Devils have new life. And just a few seconds later, I talked about it briefly in the prior episode, but that line that consists of Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, Stefan Noesen, they are just a joy to watch. And the tandem of Hischier and Noesen struck once again because it was a bang bang play. Noesen and Hischier coming down the lane, and Noesen dished it on to Hischier, and Hischier scored his 18th goal of the season, giving the Devils the 2-1 lead heading into the intermission. But the end of the first period, the Devils did get a penalty. Dougie Hamilton was called for interference against Jackson Blake, and that leaked over into the second period. The Devils killed it off, and Brett Burns immediately scored once the Devils were back at full strength. Obviously, it didn't count as a power play goal, but it might as well have been because Hamilton came back into the game, but he missed his assignment, which is why Brett Burns was so open, and he tied the game. But after that, the Devils scored 2 unanswered goals thanks to Luke Hughes and Dawson Mercer. Nobody scored in the third period. And to close out this game, there were no whistles. The referees swallowed their whistles, and these two teams had to duke it out. And when leading after the second period, the Devils are 19-0-1. Hopefully I don't get flagged for copyright or I don't get in trouble, but I think everyone knows this riff. Yep. All you New York Yankees fans know what I'm talking about. Call the Devils the Sandman because they put the game to bed. For any of you non-baseball fans, that was in reference to Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer to ever play the sport of baseball. And every time he entered the ninth inning, you knew more times than not with that nasty cutter he had, the game was pretty much over and the Yankees were going to win the game. But that's what the Devils have been like all season long. When they take a lead into the third period, more likely than not, they're going to win the game. That's been incredible to witness. This is a completely different Devils team, and their chemistry seems to be on a whole new level. Like, you see it in some of the videos of practice, you see it in the game. These guys really enjoy being around one another, and I've been blessed to go into the locker room and see it firsthand. It seems like everyone is bonding really well, and the vibes are at an all-time high. So, once again, for anyone who was in attendance at The Rock, you witnessed a really good game. All right. I'm going to list some players that caught my eye and also name my personal 3 stars of the game momentarily. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel because I want you guys to make some extra money. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. It's exhilarating. And I recommend you guys hop onto FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. All right. There were a lot of players that caught my eye in this matchup. Before I list my 3 stars of the game, first, some honorable mentions. I guess this counts as honorable mention number 1 and 2. Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt both walked away with 1 assist this game. Jesper Bratt got the secondary assist on Luke Hughes' goal, and Jack Hughes got the primary assist on Dawson Mercer's goal. This is a strange but true fact. Both of them have appeared in 38 games, and both of them have 46 points. I know a lot of people say that Jack Hughes has to be the first Devil to reach 100 points in one single year, but don't underestimate Jesper Bratt because he and Jack are neck and neck, and it seems like Jesper Bratt always finds a way to get himself into the scoring column, and more people need to talk about it. My next honorable mention goes to the captain, Nico Hischier. Like I mentioned in the first segment, he notched his 18th goal of the season, which leads the team. My next honorable mention goes to Andre Palat. 7 points in his last 8 games. I talked about how December has been a great month for the Devils. It's been a great month for Andre Palat as he's racking up points more consistently. Now, in my personal opinion, that is going to slow down at some point, but at least Andre Palat is chipping in. But remember, some of the stuff that he does doesn't show up in the score sheet. His job is to create puck possession for players like Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, who are supposed to be in the scoring column way more consistently. All right. My third star goes to Dawson Mercer. 3 points in his last 2 outings, 2 goals and an assist. In the prior episode, I talked about how the Devils need more scoring from their bottom 6, and I said the exception was Dawson Mercer because Mercer has been finding his game a little bit as the year progresses. In 38 game appearances, he has 9 goals, 10 assists for a grand total of 19 points. He's on pace to top what he did last season. As we all know, in some offensive categories, he had career lows. It was a far cry from what he did during the 2022-2023 season. He finished off with 33 points in 82 game appearances. And going back to that historic season that the Devils had, he appeared in 82 games once again, and he had 56 points. So I would say this season is an improvement from last year. However, it doesn't take that much, but focusing on something a little bit more positive, I wanted to give Mercer his flowers because, like I said, while offensive numbers have been tough to come by for some players like Eric Haula and Paul Cotter, you got someone like Dawson Mercer who's carrying that load. But that's not to say that Haula and Cotter have been bad. I'm not saying that at all. Someone like Eric Haula, he creates possession. He does faceoffs. He works the dirty areas. Cotter, he racks up the hits. But like I said, it would be nice if they could crack into the scoring column a little bit more often, but I'm not really going to dwell on that. Dawson Mercer, once again, 3 points in his last 2 games. My second star goes to Jacob Markstrom, courtesy of Amanda Stein. Here's what she put out on social media. Just incredible stuff from Jacob Markstrom. He just won his 6th straight game. He was outstanding again tonight. He's 9-0-1 in his last 10 games with just 14 goals against. In his last 15 games, Markstrom is 12-2-1. Devils beat the Canes 4-2. Like I've been saying, Markstrom is a good goalie, and he's always going to find ways to improve. Now, I'm sure he would like to have that first goal that he let into Eric Robinson back because he did initially make the save and he couldn't squeeze onto it, and Robinson just tapped it on in. But whether or not a whistle should have been called, that's up for debate. But at the same time, Markstrom responded really well. Aside from that Brett Burns goal early on in the second period, but that was the result of late coverage by Dougie Hamilton, who checked back into the game after serving a penalty, and the Devils just had a defensive collapse. But anyway, I'm sorry. Going back to Markstrom, he really elevated his game as the game progressed. Like I said, as the second period went on, he had to make a lot of point blank saves. And the same could be said in the third period because the Hurricanes had a late surge. And the final 8 minutes and 11 seconds, there was no whistle. So the Devils didn't really have that much of a break. They had to use every ounce of their energy to make sure that they walked away with a 4-2 victory because the Hurricanes were knocking on the door. But Jacob Markstrom being the last line of defense, he was making those crucial saves. So I got to give credit where credit is due. Jacob Markstrom was phenomenal once again in between the pipes. And since the Devils are set to play the Hurricanes once again, this time in Raleigh, Jake Allen will get the start. All right. My first star goes to Luke Hughes. Maybe we should just accept that Luke Hughes just isn't good. He's great, especially in December. He has 8 points in his last 6 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, but he also has 15 points in his last 16 games, 3 goals, 12 assists. Luke has also been phenomenal defensively. The numbers show he's one of the best defensive players in the NHL alongside his D partner, Brett Pesce, who also walked away with an assist on his goal. Brett Pesce lasered one in, and Luke Hughes finished the play. Kochkov had no chance. So Luke Hughes is my first star. And by the way, I'm seeing a lot of it on social media. People are going back to that infamous tweet that was made in December 2022 when someone said that Luke Hughes just isn't good, which credit to the author for leaving that tweet up there and not deleting it. I guess you're standing on business, but just my message to you, just know everybody at the Devil's Discourse is not going to forget about that tweet, especially since Luke Hughes, he was a finalist for the Calder Trophy last season. He's having a great year defensively, and now he's racking up the offensive numbers, becoming a great two-way player. For your sake, you might want to delete that tweet because nobody from the Devil's Discourse is going to forget about it. But I digress a little bit. Let's go back to Luke Hughes. Just a phenomenal outing. And Luke Hughes said post-game, quote, massive, very, very important to come out of Christmas like that. Big divisional game, and hopefully it's an 8-point swing. As I've said, this is the part of the year where points start to settle, and I'm glad that the Devils are finding their groove. December has been very kind to them. And players like Luke Hughes, Andre Palat, they continue to rack up the points in December. We already knew that Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt were going to be great, but just the development of this whole team in general, especially with the leadership behind the bench, similar to what Bill Spalding said a few weeks ago, this team is special. Don't take it for granted. All right. I'm going to compare the stats and give the Devils a letter grade momentarily. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your other favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas, and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week on Prize Picks, I'm always eyeing Jack Hughes for more than 4 shots on goal. Download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. All right. We're set for another matchup against the Hurricanes later tonight when this episode goes live, but this time the Devils head down south. Shots on goal differential, 23-31 in favor of the Hurricanes. Power plays, Devils had no power play opportunities this game. Hurricanes were 0 for 2, but I talked about the Brett Burns situation already. Hits 24-20 in favor of the Hurricanes. Giveaways 16-12 in favor of the Hurricanes. Takeaways 4 a pop. Block shots 15-11 in favor of the Devils. Time spent in the penalty box 6-2 in favor of the Devils. If you're confused, Brett Pesce and Tyson Jost, they had a little bit of a scuffle. Pesce was dinged with 2 penalties, cross-checking and roughing. The cross-checking was served by Tomas Tatar. Jost was dinged for roughing. So just giving you that sort of clarity. If I had to give the Devils a letter grade, like I said in the first segment, wasn't their best outing, but their offense definitely came to play. And Jacob Markstrom, he elevated his game as the matchup progressed. It was entertaining to watch. So I will give the Devils a B plus. Wasn't perfect, but it was a very entertaining game. And I think the Devils, once again, this was a statement victory. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. They're in a three-way tie with Vegas and Winnipeg for most points in the NHL. So, yeah, I'm going to give them a B plus. But let me know your thoughts. What did you think of this matchup against the Hurricanes? Did anyone stick out in particular? And leave your comments about Luke Hughes and how his game has developed from both an offensive standpoint, but more importantly, a defensive standpoint. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day in New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening once again.